There should be no doubt. The United States will continue to support Israel's right to defend itself against Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, and any other Iranian-supported terrorists. The United States is fully supportive of Israel. We strongly warn against Iran or its proxies taking actions against the United States or further actions against Israel.
I would like to reiterate China's resolute support for the SG for his work and oppose the groundless accusations of Israel against him.
Russia resolutely condemns the attack on Lebanon and calls on Israeli authorities to immediately stop using force and withdraw their troops from the Lebanese territory. We also decisively condemn the killing of Nasrallah.
We strongly believe that a diplomatic solution along the blue line, consistent with Resolution 1701, offers the only path to durably de-escalate tensions and allow Israeli and Lebanese citizens to return to their homes with safety and security. As we pursue this diplomatic solution, we reiterate our call on all parties to protect civilians. We also underscore our support for UNIFIL and emphasize that all parties must ensure UNIFIL personnel remain secure. There should be no doubt. The United States will continue to support Israel's right to defend itself against Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, and any other Iranian-supported terrorists. Of course, how Israel defends itself matters. We continue to make clear that measures must be taken to minimize civilian harm. Colleagues, as President Biden emphasized following yesterday's attack, the United States is fully supportive of Israel. Our actions have been defensive in nature. Let me be clear. The Iranian regime will be held responsible for its actions, and we strongly warn against Iran or its proxies taking actions against the United States or further actions against Israel. Colleagues, this moment of great risk is a test of this Council. It is imperative that we unequivocally condemn Iran's attack and demand that it cease its support for terrorism in the region. People in Israel, in Gaza, and the West Bank, in Lebanon, and across the region deserve a durable peace, and it is far past time for this Council to hold Iran accountable for fanning the flames of war.
I would like to reiterate China's resolute support for the SG for his work and oppose the groundless accusations of Israel against him. President, over the past 2 weeks, the situation in the Middle East, in particular in Lebanon, has taken a sharp turn for the worse. Following the remotely operated and simultaneous detonation of thousands of communications devices in Lebanon, Israel carried out several rounds of large-scale airstrikes in southern and eastern Lebanon. Yesterday, Israel launched ground offensive and military incursion into Lebanon. Israel also launched intensive airstrikes against Syria. Iran has also concluded a series of military attacks on the military and security targets in Israel and sent correspondence to the Security Council explaining its position. We share the position of the United Nations that any Israeli crossing into Lebanon violates the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Lebanon and contravenes the provisions of the Security Council Resolution 1701. We urge all parties, in particular Israel, to exercise restraint and refrain from any action that could lead to further escalation of the situation.
The Middle Eastern region, in front of our eyes, is sliding towards a new large-scale war, whereas the Security Council is just there helplessly watching it. The Israeli brutal military operation in Gaza continues despite the demand on the part of the overwhelming part of the international community to stop it. The spiraling of violence predictably led to a worsening situation on the border between Israel, Lebanon, and Yemen, and in the Red Sea. But instead of using diplomacy, the West Jerusalem authorities unambiguously staked everything on using force. And their American accomplices are playing completely into their hands. They are paralyzing the deliberations of Security Council. As a result, the new victim of the Israeli military machine is Lebanon. After intensive shelling of Lebanese towns, the southern neighbor started a ground operation in Lebanon. Furthermore, after a series of political killings, including the killing of the Hamas chair of the political bureau, Hanin, the general secretary of Hezbollah, Nasrallah, and other leaders of resistant movements, Iran came into the confrontation. Iran, who for 2 whole months had been showing exceptional, under the circumstances, restraint. Russia resolutely condemns the attack on Lebanon and calls on Israeli authorities to immediately stop using force and withdraw their troops from the Lebanese territory. There is no justification for fresh civilian victims amongst the civilians, and their number is already in the thousands. We express our solidarity with the leadership and the people of the friendly country of Lebanon who are undergoing an armed aggression, and we will send our heartfelt condolences to the families of those died. We demand a full comprehensive implementation of Resolution 1701. It contains the obligations on Israel to end all the offensive military operations, to withdraw their military from southern Lebanon, and end the occupation of Lebanese territories, as well as the obligations on Hezbollah to withdraw the units north of the Litani River. We also decisively condemn the killing of Nasrallah. We reject the fact that in order to eliminate him, a residential quarter in Lebanon's capital had 80 bombs weighing 1 ton had dropped on it. As a result, 6 high-rise buildings were destroyed. How can you call this a discriminatory selective action here? This political elimination is fraught with catastrophic consequences for Lebanon and the Middle East as a whole. Western Jerusalem, I'm sure, understood that, but they intentionally decided to go ahead and do this. And this means that the Israeli side shoulders the full responsibility for the subsequent escalation and its consequences, including the consequences for the people of Israel. Within the framework of its mandate to maintain international peace and security, the Security Council has to make Israel immediately end the hostilities.
France condemns the ballistic missile attacks perpetrated yesterday by Iran against Israel. We are attached to the security of Israel, and France has mobilized its military means in the Middle East in order to fend off the Iranian threat. We call upon Iran to abstain from any action that could lead to additional destabilization and a regional conflagration. We also condemn the terrorist attack that targeted civilians in Jaffa. France would recall the need to put an end to military escalation in the region, which is only worsening instability and increasing insecurity. And the civilian populations are the first victims of this. In Lebanon, the situation is serious. Military operations are intensifying. The Israeli army carried out land incursions on Lebanese territory in violation of Lebanese sovereignty, and Hezbollah is pursuing its attacks against Israel. As recalled by the Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs of France, Jean-Noël Barrot, on his visit to Beirut on the 30th of September, France opposes any Israeli land operation in Lebanon, and we call for a cessation of indiscriminate attacks against civilians. France condemns the Israeli air attacks that have led to a considerable number of civilian victims, as well as the attacks of Hezbollah against Israel and its population. We need a ceasefire as soon as possible in Lebanon. France urges the parties to, without delay, answer the call to consider the proposals of the President of the French Republic and the President of the United States, with the support of our partners, with a view to bringing about a ceasefire, opening up a pathway to a diplomatic resolution of the conflict. It is important that we restore the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Lebanon.
The events this week are gravely concerning. Yesterday, the Iranian regime launched over 200 ballistic missiles at Israel. We categorically condemn this act of aggression, which escalates an already dangerous situation. As my Prime Minister said yesterday, Israel has our full support in exercising its right to defend itself against Iranian aggression. President, we are deeply concerned about the prospect of further escalation in Lebanon and across the region. We have been clear. All our efforts now must be on stopping this cycle of violence. Iran and its allies across the region must exercise restraint and step away from the brink. We've been clear. My Foreign Secretary has consistently called for a ceasefire in Lebanon by Lebanese Hezbollah and Israel, and the implementation of a political plan in line with UNSCR 1701. We have been clear. In Gaza, we need an immediate ceasefire and the release of the hostages. My Foreign Secretary has urged both Israel and Hamas to agree the ceasefire deal on the table, to choose peace and bring this chaos to an end. Peace, not war, is the courageous option. It is also the best option to secure stability and security for Israelis, Palestinians, Lebanese, and the wider region. President, we cannot let Lebanon become another Gaza, with mounting civilian casualties and hundreds of thousands of displaced people. All parties must do everything possible to protect civilians and fully respect international humanitarian law. A widening of the conflict is in no one's interest. The actions taken now will impact a generation. I call on all actors to step back from the brink and find a political resolution.